investors, glad to have you join us in today's edition of Business Incorporated. I'm Bolaji Akinwale. Today on the show, China is to host next year's Brics meeting. Emirates Airline plans to reduce flights to cities facing economic challenges. And updates from the commodities markets. Okay, we'll begin with stories from Exotics Partners, which says about the comments on the highlights of IMF meetings that was just concluded in Washington. According to the report, Ukraine looked like it was set to get back on track with its programs. 6 months on, that seems to be the case under the new government, which was formed in April. Although Ukraine still enjoys strong international support, both from the US and the EU, as well as bilateral partners, it needs to get more grants from donors. Completion of the IMF's second review led to a $1 billion disbursement from the fund, and a further $1.8 billion is expected to become available from other multilateral and official bilateral creditors. And to the markets, so starting from Asia, where the numbers were mostly on the high on Tuesday as oil prices advanced and gaming shares across the region retraced much of Monday's losses. Shares of Crown Resorts, one of Australia's biggest casino companies, closed up 1.7% at 11 Australian dollars after falling 13.9% in the previous session, which dragged other gaming stocks in the region. Monday's drop followed reports that 18 of Crown's employees, including the executive vice president of the VIP International Business, Jason O'Connor, were detained by Chinese authorities. Hong Kong-listed gaming shares also advanced after Monday's declines. Wynn Macau shares were up 3.8% in late afternoon trade. Melco International added 3.6%, and Galaxy Entertainment was higher by 3.24%. European stocks were higher in morning trade today as firming oil prices lifted global sentiment. Janelle Dumalong is DWTV financial correspondent, and she's live to us from the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Many thanks for joining us, Janelle. Thank you for your time. Now, oil prices have been recovering as concerns on oversupply wanes. Tell us how this may impact on oil stocks.
Exactly, just as you said, concerns on oversupply have been waning. In fact, today there have been reports of a plummet in floating oil storage, which is an indicator that the glut is indeed shrinking. Now, it's also the weaker dollar, of course, that has helped lift oil and metals prices, lifting commodity-related stocks all around Europe and Asia. Now, the stocks, Europe 600 oil and gas, is up on the news as well, and although obviously, of course, we have to see what will happen next week next month as the OPEC meets in Vienna, the market remains volatile, and investors would do well to keep their eye on all oil-related developments until then. The problem isn't over yet.
Okay, the earnings have continued to come in. Burberry, Continental, and Ryanair, among others, have been hit with lower profits. Why are the numbers less attractive?
Yes, that's a very good observation there, and there have been some overlaps with Burberry and Ryanair, of course. The key word that we're looking at is Brexit. Since the Brexit vote in June, we do know that the pound has weakened considerably, up to 18% against dollar, and of course that affects companies who make a significant chunk of their business in the UK, just like Ryanair. Now, of course, lower currency, as if you will, is a two-sided coin. We know that Ryanair has a third of its revenue out of the UK, and things like a weakening pound can really affect its sales. On the other hand, it's an opportunity for Ryanair to shore up on passenger numbers and undercut even weaker rivals like EasyJet. And Yeah, so it's not exactly the same story with Burberry. Now, Burberry has actually been one of the best performers since the Brexit vote. After the pound weakened considerably, tourists surged into the UK in search of Burberry products, and that has actually boosted their sales. But the problem that Burberry has experienced was actually in terms of weak department store demand. So they saw weak demand from department stores, and that's obviously hit their wholesaling and licensing revenues. So in the case of Continental, now that's something completely removed from those two results from Ryanair and Burberry. It has a whole different set of problems. Continental has had to spend more on research and development, and we're also seeing reports that they may have overinvested in hybrid technologies at a time where the industry is powering full steam ahead. It's all about e-cars. And they've also seen a lot of costs from production disruptions from a supplier in Japan after that earthquake that we experienced in August. And it's also looking at antitrust investigations ongoing in Brazil, in South Korea. European regulators have their eye on Continental as well. So with regard to its weak results, we can say that they're coming from a whole basket of problems, and Continental definitely has its plate full.
Okay, the U.S. elections is just around the corner, but ahead of that, there's heightened level of caution at the markets. U.S. stocks were lower this morning as comments from the Fed shows that the central bank is closer to meeting its inflation goals. How are investors reacting to this?
Well, on the one hand, as you said, U.S. Federal Reserve Vice Chairman Stanley Fischer did say that the central bank is close to meeting those goals and that low interest rates could threaten economic stability. On the other hand, he said that a rate hike wasn't the easiest thing to do. So all in all, that was still a pretty cautious message. And where I'm standing, this is the cautionary tone of that message is what investors have been looking at more. The consensus is still that there will be a rate hike in December, but that tightening will only proceed at a very gradual pace. And it could be that because investors are holding on to these expectations, that it didn't make that much noise, at least here in Europe.
Thank you very much, Janelle Dumalong, DWTV financial correspondent reporting from the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. And finally, from the market, we're still sticking to developments in the U.S., where stocks, like I mentioned, opened lower today. It's nearly 80 S&P 500, of which 11 are Dow components, report earnings this week. Let's get more details as to how the markets opened during the week and how they're doing. As VOA business correspondent in New York City, Jill Malandrino reports.
U.S. stocks opened fractionally higher, although we bounced off of those highs. We're just about down about 2.2% on the session. Utilities and materials are leading the way, while healthcare and telecom are lagging a bit. Some of the top earnings released today include Bank of America, Hasbro, J.B. Hunt this morning, with Netflix and IBM highlighting tonight's results. Bank of America, the second largest U.S. bank by assets, reported its first profit increase in 3 quarters as bond trading surged and expenses fell. Like rivals J.P. Morgan and Citi, Bank of America got a boost from a resurgence in trading, with clients repositioning after Britain's surprise June vote to leave the European Union and changing expectations for monetary policy in the U.S., Europe, and Japan. Keep in mind, consensus expectations have been lowered across the board this season, so analysts are going to dig into this earnings print to see just how strong the beats really are when digging through these details. Earnings season has truly kicked into high gear. We have nearly 80 S&P 500 companies, including 11 Dow components, slated to announce their quarterly earnings in the coming week. There's also a number of key economic data results, including New York manufacturing industrial production. Just before the market opened, Caterpillar chairman and CEO Doug Oberhelman, he announced that he's going to retire in 2017. Now, he has spent more than 41 years with the company. Take note that Caterpillar is due to report earnings shortly. Outside of earnings and market fundamentals, 4 Federal Reserve Bank presidents are scheduled to speak at various events across the U.S. and investors will continue to look for clues into monetary policy and interest rate hike timing in their speeches. Now, traders are currently pricing in a 67% chance of a rate hike in December. This is according to the CME Group's FedWatch tool. Now, the big story for the week, the national election, it's just weeks away, and the third and final debate between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton will take place this Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Now, analysts really do not expect the markets to be affected just from the results alone. Historically, despite the very real short-term risk of volatility and the potential policy uncertainties, the likely long-term outcome of the election is continued economic growth and consequent market gains. From the NASDAQ market site in New York, I'm Jill Malandrino, and this is Channels TV.
Thanks, Jill. The Chinese southern city of Xiamen will host next year's Brics meeting. Now, this was announced by President Xi Jinping in the western Indian state of Goa at the end of this year's summit, as the countries plan to implement the various resolutions reached at the meeting.
China will hold the rotating chair of the emerging market bloc of Brics, comprising of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa next year, hosting its 9th summit on the southeastern Chinese Sea of Xiamen in September. This was announced by President Xi Jinping in the western Indian state of Goa at the end of this year's summit. President Xi adds that China expects to work with all parties concerned to implement the consensus reached at previous summit, deepen their partnerships and write a new chapter for the Brics cooperation. The following Brics summit will be held in Xiamen, a tourist resort city on the southeast coast of China, where Xi served as vice mayor in the 1980s. After the summit, the leaders from the 5 Brics nations witnessed the signing of agreements, including the Memorandum of Understanding for establishment of the Brics Agricultural Research Platform, Regulations and Customs Cooperation Committee of the Brics, and Memorandum of Understanding for Cooperation in Foreign Affairs University of the Brics, as well as attended a joint news conference. Furthermore, the Brics nations adopted the Goa Declaration. On the same day, when attending the dialogue between Brics leaders and representatives of the Brics Business Council, Xi urged industrial and commercial circles within member countries to boost confidence by taking solid action towards new challenges. President Xi also noted that after a decade of development, the cooperation among Brics countries has entered a new stage with opportunities that come along with the challenges. He encouraged industrial and commercial circles to seize opportunities and actively participate in the country's economic cooperation, cement confidence, and promote reform and innovation through pragmatic cooperation. The 5 leaders listened to the Brics New Development Bank's work. They also took photos with captains of 5 national undersized.
And let's take a look at the FMGQ debt markets as Olalekan Olabisi, a fixed income trader with Guaranty Trust Bank, joins me on the program. Olalekan, welcome to the show.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Tomorrow, expecting a debt auction of 138 billion naira by the Debt Management Office. Tell us how the market is gearing up for this sale.
Yeah, well, we expect yields trend around where they've been, yields close around where they've been closing in the primary auctions. Last auctions closed at 13.9 on the 90-day paper. 182 days closed at 17.09, 364 closed at 18.25. So yeah, we expect, demand may be slightly light due to the liquidity situation, but we expect yields close around same levels.
So talk to us about today's trading session.
Yeah, this week has been bearish in the fixed income market. Like I said, because it's been a tight week, and we don't expect any net maturities on Thursdays. So stakeholders have been very careful, and yields have moved on the short end of the yield curve across the fixed income market, and we've also seen movement on the bond side.
So what has been the yield like?
Well, for the T-bills, we're seeing yields trend, trend above 18% discount levels. We broke the 18.5 levels today. I think we traded at about 18.7. For we've also seen from the short term from 14.7 to 15.5 levels.
All right, thank you so much, Olalekan Olabisi, fixed income dealer with Guaranty Trust Bank. It's time to go for a break, and when we come back, we'll be taking you back to the market, this time taking a look at the Forex market. We'll be right back.